Ready?
Yeah.
Hello. Welcome to our new podcast, Is It Scary? I'm Chris,
I'm Lizzie.
and this is our very first episode of the podcast.
The 1st of October, too.
Yeah. This is also our second time trying to film this.
Yeah, because the first time we filmed it, we, did it. It was great. We went to edit it, and there's no audio.
Yeah.
None. We fixed that. God, I hope we fixed that. What are you doing? Your G Fuel lid? Oh, that's funny.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's okay, because the first time we did this, I was wearing the Oogie Boogie sweater, and Oogie Boogie kept making an appearance in and out. So, there's that. So, what are we doing today? I don't remember what we were doing.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Okay. So, everyone has a favorite horror movie, video game, book, TV show, something. If they like horror, they have a favorite. And they have something that got them into the genre.
Into the horror genre in general. Yeah, so the point of this podcast is to pick a topic of any media whatsoever that fits into the horror, the thriller, paranormal, suspense genre. We're going to give it a review, a synopsis, if you will, and basically just talk about it, talk about our thoughts on it, rate it toward the end. If it was scary to us, if we would consider it scary, things like that. What? Should we tell them our first, movies that got us into here?
Sure.
Yeah? You want to start or me?
You can go.
Okay. My very first one that I did not feel forced and I actually wanted to watch was, Nightmare on Elm Street, the original one. But that wasn't the one that, got me into horror, but it was my first one that I was like, oh, this isn't too bad. Because previous to that, I wouldn't watch them. Scared the hell out of me. I was also, way too young for half of these movies that I was watching at the time. I was, no older than 10 for most of them. But the one that, really grasped me and put me into the horror genre the most was Halloween 20, H2O, with Michael Myers. I watched that, and it did scare me, because I was, 12 when I saw it. But I watched it, and it was the first scary movie that I saw that I was afraid of, but wanted to watch again.
Yeah.
And that's how I knew I was hooked.
So everyone's introduced to a lot of horror movies, or if you have TV on and you just happen to be watching TV around Halloween, you end up accidentally watching horror movies as a kid and getting terrified about something. Who knows, right? So obviously Chucky was one of the big ones for me that scared me as a kid, but then I wouldn't get into it until much later on. But I think one of the very first ones had to have been, I know I watched The Ring.
Was that throwing you off?
Yeah, the delay is throwing me off a little bit. The Ring was the very first movie that I actually willingly watched, but then it was Scream 1 that got me into watching more and more horror movies and actually getting addicted to horror movies. Or not addicted, but
That's your go-to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything creepy is your go-to. You look like you're drinking out of nothing.
That's because I am. It's nothing here.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
LOL, that's funny because this is a dark green, body. It tries to, get rid of it, too.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
The blue top also is
disappearing.
Yeah, so it's
You look like you're drinking out of the jack-o'-lantern behind you.
Anyway.
So, the movie that we're covering today actually ends up being Scream. It won our little spin the wheel and choose. So that's what we went with. Since it's your favorite movie, why don't you start?
So,
give us the background. What happened? How are we introduced in this movie?
How are we introduced?
Yeah, like, what is the first thing that happens in the movie? Like, what gets us there?
Well, I do want to talk about, like, what I like most about the movie.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
So, the Scream movies, as you know, are a series that happen to have more A-list actors in it than a lot of other horror movies. Or it was one of the very first ones that would introduce A-list actors.
I would not consider them A-list actors when they were filming this movie. No way.
Yeah, but they were like fairly popular actors. Or they had one or two that were like at the top of their game. Or not top of their game, but like very popular. Because we have Courtney Cox. And we also had frickin' what's his name that was the Fonz.
Ah, yes, the principal. He ended up being the Fonz.
Exactly, and then we have
but see,
others.
To me, that means that they were popular on... Because a good majority of these actors I only saw later on in movies, much further into their acting career, but I first saw them on TV. Like Courtney Cox, I first saw her on Friends.
Yeah.
The Fonz was definitely on TV way before he was in a movie.
Yeah. And he was in so many movies before this movie as well.
Yeah. And then you had oh god, who plays Dewey?
David Arquette.
Yeah, David Arquette. He played Dewey. Him and his like almost all of his siblings are pretty famous, turns out. So I don't know very many actors. I just know like faces. But yeah, I wouldn't say that they're A-list. I think that this movie did help push them
into like
into more popularity than what they already were getting.
Yeah, but in comparison to other horror movies, the Scream series is like one of the top franchises for those actors to be in. Just like how we start off the movie, we start off with a very young Drew Barrymore.
Oh my god, when she came on the screen, both of us were just like, is that Drew Barrymore?
Yeah. So, kicking off the movie, the film opens with an up-close shot of Drew Barrymore.
Casey.
The character's name is Casey. She receives a phone call from an identified caller. At first, it seems that he has the wrong number and hangs up, calls again to say sorry, and then hangs up, calls again, and then just wants to talk. And it seems like it's just a playful conversation.
In the beginning.
And then it starts going south fairly fast the moment that he asks for her name. She doesn't want to tell him. And he slips up, well, I want to know who I'm looking at. Doors get locked. She freaks out. She originally lied, saying that she didn't have a boyfriend. And then you find out that she's in fear. And she's saying that her boyfriend's going to be there soon. And he's going to kick his ass.
See, I'm wondering, did he actually slip up, though? Or did he purposely do that to make her afraid? Because that is going to be the fastest way to make somebody afraid.
So, like, he could have just played the game. And be like, oh yeah, what's your favorite horror movie? And then ask, like, questions. And then be like, I have your boyfriend. Answer this next question right, or he dies! You know? So, I think that, it might have been a slip-up.
Who was the killer in Friday the 13th? It was not Jason. Spoiler alert.
The mom.
She got that wrong.
Yep. Well, happens. So, after saying that her boyfriend was going to be there, you have the killer say, oh, does it happen to be Steve?
Yeah.
And she's like, how do you know? He was like, well, check the porch. So she checks the porch, and he's tied up there, and then he gets gutted after she fails to answer a question correctly, which was, who was the killer of Friday the 13th? Yep. And then, what else do we have? She continues playing the game, trying to, like, run away from the killer or hide from the killer, sees the killer, then
all the above.
Gets started.
Literally all the above.
Yeah, it just all happens so very fast.
Basically, the killer catches her, obviously, because why not start a murder movie with not murdering somebody? So, unfortunately, Steve dies. She sees him dead. She sees him get gutted.
Yep.
A chase goes out. She's actually running around trying to escape, and she sees her parents' car coming up the driveway because she was all by herself at home. She sees her parents' car coming up the driveway. Just as she's about to, like, call out to them, the killer comes and, like, attacks her. I don't remember exactly what he does to her. I know that he slits her throat at one point. I don't remember if that's before the car gets there or after her parents come out of the car and up toward the house. But either way, they can't hear her. She can't scream out to them. And they come home. They call out for her. There's smoke in the house because she was making popcorn earlier. And she left it on the stove. So now there's a fire breaking out inside their kitchen. They continue screaming for her. Mom picks up the phone to call 911, but because Casey was on the phone trying to call 911, or she was on the phone with the killer, all Mom hears is Casey choking on her own blood.
Hearing the stabs, hearing the gasps.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes. And then when Dad takes the phone, we hear one last gasp from Casey, and then it goes to a dial tone. And Dad's trying to shove the mom out of the house, telling her to go to the neighbors to call 911, because at this point, I think he knew that she was gone. And that poor mom, all she kept saying was, "Not my daughter," and then she opens up the front door to leave, and then we just see Casey hung by a tree, and her insides, like, out and everything. What a way to find your kid. Oh my god, that's so upsetting.
Yep. And then the camera zooms in real fast on her face. We have the scream, and that's what opens up to the main characters.
Yeah, Jesus. Like, what a wild ride, though. Like, for me, that's not scary, but I do have massive sympathy. Massive sympathy for her.
So, just a warning. There are obviously going to be spoilers.
Yo, this was from 1996.
Yeah. If you haven't watched it yet, fucking watch it.
It's kind of on you at this point.
So yeah, we then cut to the next scene, which happens to be Sydney that we meet. Sydney Prescott, and that is our main character in every goddamn movie following.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Literally every
She
single
can't
one.
die.
No.
I don't even think she, like, actually gets, like, physically attacked more than just, like, maybe a cut.
I heard Raptor. I don't know where. Oh, he's over there.
He's over there. So we have Sydney in her room. I guess she's, like, on the computer. Ready. She's getting ready. She's studying something.
She's in her pajamas. We know that for sure.
And then as she's doing this, we then get a shot of her window, and then her boyfriend Billy pops in. A little out of breath, and very not uncalled for, but without any notice to Sydney at all.
Unannounced?
Yeah, unannounced.
You're looking for unannounced.
Yeah. So he arrives unannounced, scares the shit out of Sydney. Sydney screams. He goes into the room, starts talking to Sydney for a little bit, and then her dad comes up, and we get to an important part where we find out that Sydney has a room where her doors lock on each other, which is going to play...
Oh, so basically, for those that are listening and not watching, what he means is you cannot open one door if the other one is open.
Mm-hmm. So, this is a life-saving thing that happens later on in the movie, I would say. Because otherwise she'd... go. Anyway, she talks to her dad.
I'm just gonna stare at you until you continue.
She's talking to her dad, and then we find out that her dad's about to leave on a business convention, and it seems that Sydney is the only child, and she only has a dad.
Why does she only have a dad?
Because her mom was killed a year before.
No, it wasn't a year before.
Okay, fine. It was like almost a year before.
That's very key to remember.
It was like 2 days short of the 1 year anniversary,
literally,
or 3 days short.
Like 2 or 3 days short, yeah. But it's key to remember that it was almost her mom's anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
You have to remember that.
Yes. So once the dad and her are done talking, it goes back to the room. Billy hid. Billy is then back up talking to Sydney. They're talking about their relationship and how he wants to take it further.
But
and
she don't.
She wants to stay a virgin. Yep.
Another key point,
yeah. And then there's a little bit more talking, and then Billy decides to leave, and then she flashes him.
But just her bra.
Yep.
I think.
Yep, just the bra.
It's been a couple days.
And then we go to the next scene, which is in the classroom, and you have what I'm guessing is Casey's desk.
No,
that's empty.
It's not the classroom that's next. We see Sydney walking to school, and we see all of the camera people and everything, and that's where Sydney learned. I said Casey. That's where Sydney learns. Oh, Steve and Casey have been murdered, but we don't know why. Like, we don't know what happened yet. And then we go because that's where we meet Tatum. That's where we meet. We re-see Billy, and that's where we please do not do that. And that's where we see what's his face? Stu, I think.
That's after the classroom scene.
Is that one after the classroom scene? Either way, we see her going to school with the vans outside, and then we go to...
And then we get in the classroom.
Without Casey.
Yeah, it's either Casey or it's Steve's desk.
I'm
guessing it's Casey's desk.
I'm gonna say that it's Casey's, because I feel like she would have been... she would have been friends with Casey.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have really been friends with Steve. Wait. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Because Casey, it turns out, was dating Stu.
Yep.
And she broke up with him for Steve or something along those lines. We don't really know. That's not like confirmed or denied in the movie, but it's a key motivator, turns out.
Yep. So we are in the classroom. We see the empty desk, and then Sydney gets called up to the office to give her, I guess, testimony on where she was.
No, they were just gonna ask her some questions.
Yeah, they were gonna interrogate her to see.
Yeah, they're asking all the students like what their favorite hobbies were, if they like to cook, things like that. They were trying to create a profile or see if somebody knew something based on the students, because honestly, who best would know the victims other than their own classmates or their friends at that point? Their parents sure as hell aren't really gonna know them. They're teenagers. But they go to school. There's a conversation during lunch, I believe, by a water fountain with Sydney and her friends. I can hear that. With Sydney and her friends, they're like by a water fountain. Billy is there, who is played by Skeet Ulrich. That's such a name. And then you have Stu, who is played by Matthew. I always butcher his last name.
Lillard
is Shaggy, basically. Shaggy. And...
Lilliard.
Yeah. And then Tatum is played by Rose McGrowan. She played on Charmed for a very long time. And then Sydney is played by Neve Campbell.
Neve Campbell.
That might might not be how you pronounce her name, but that's how we're gonna pronounce it for right now. But they're having this conversation. Stu is making complete lighthearted jokes about the entire thing, about what's going on, how they got killed. He's coming up with theories about why. And Billy is the one who's being more sensitive to Sydney because her mom was butchered in a very similar way the year prior.
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, cut it out. Like, stop talking about it. Like, stop. Tatum is also trying to be like, hey, let's not talk about that, at least in front of Sydney. But she's a lot quieter because she's dating Stu and doesn't want to make him mad, apparently.
And then we have Randy as well.
Oh, Randy.
That's played by Jamie Kennedy. And he is just on the mindset that this is a horror movie that's playing out or starting to play out, and he is kind of giving in and egging on Stu a little bit. Mm-hmm. He's got like different voices. Oh, are you the one that put the spleen in the mailbox, whatever? So it was just a whole lot of different personalities, and of course, if you've seen the movie, you know who the killers are, which happen to be Billy and Stu. And the way that Stu is acting at the moment, you could definitely see it in Billy's eyes that he's like, dude, shut the fuck up. They're gonna find out that it's us.
Yeah,
like,
looking back, like rewatching it, you can definitely see it in his eyes. And I'm so sorry for anyone that's gonna go watch this movie for the first time after hearing this podcast.
If anyone's gonna be watching it for the very first time, you're like, I'm trying to do math. 28 years fucking late.
You do know we are only 3 years older than the movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We old.
Don't say that. 30. We're not 30 yet, and that's not even old.
27 years late to that party.
Anyway.
Okay. So yeah, we then go to the next scene, which is
Sydney goes home. She's dropped off by the bus.
Sydney goes home.
She gets the mail.
She takes a nap. She wakes up to a phone call, which happens to be Tatum.
Her best friend.
Tatum is asking her what she should get for a movie.
Because Sydney's at home by herself, so she's actually going to go stay with Tatum and her family until her dad gets back. Which I feel like was smart.
Yeah.
Because who's going to leave a teenager home by themselves like that? Nobody.
Especially when a murder just happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So they're on the phone for a little bit. They hang up, and then Sydney gets a phone call instantly right after.
Literally right after.
And then she was like, what, Tatum? And you're like,
just
forgot something?
Movie.
Yeah, just pick a movie. And then we hear Ghostface's voice on the other line.
Tongue twisted.
Yeah. And he's, of course, doing his bit, but not as intense. It's just asking a couple questions, like, who do you think I am? And stuff, like, can you guess? Because she's thinking that it's Randy. And she's like, oh, that's a really sexy voice you're doing, Randy. And she's, like, trying to, like, egg him on and stuff. And then finally it gets to a point, and she's like, well, why are you saying this? And he was like, well, because it's not fucking Randy.
And that's when she's like,
yeah.
fuck. She also kind of antagonizes him a little bit, because he's like, well, I'm on the porch. So she's like, I'm calling your bluff. And she goes onto the porch and she like looks around and she goes, well, if you're really here, then what am I doing? She starts like fake picking her nose and like making like faces and gestures and whatnot. And she's like, huh? What am I doing? That's what I thought. And then he gets pissed.
Yeah. And then he's like, then he asks her, do you want to die? Because your mother sure didn't.
Oh, God.
And then
that's
she was
the
like,
moment.
Yeah, she was like, stops in her tracks, and she's like, that's not fucking cool.
That was the moment that she was like, fuck, he's not playing.
Yeah. And then because she just thought it was a joke, and then that happened, and then I guess she goes inside real quick. She's like, fuck you, asshole.
Yeah, she goes inside to shut and lock the door.
And then she turns around, and Ghostface is going to swing to attack her. And then we have a chase scene going on. To note, just minutes earlier on the phone with Ghostface, she said that she didn't watch horror movies because all they are they have big-breasted women that are too dumb to run out the door but run up the stairs, and she does just that when she gets chased. But
to be fair, Ghostface purposely blocked her from going out the front door.
Correct.
He stood in the way.
And she did lock it. So, like, she was, like, struggling with the slide lock, yeah.
Yeah,
the chain lock, yeah.
He purposely made her go up the stairs.
Yeah. Yeah. So, she runs up the stairs. She, of course, puts her closet and her door together so that he can't open the door. She locks her door. He busts in, it stops because of that door, and then he starts swinging away, and she tries calling 911 on her phone, but the line is busy because she dropped the handheld that she was using.
Yep.
And then she looks over at her computer, and then does that, like, dial a phone number that you were able to do back then.
You still can.
I'm sure you can. I mean, we have the technology. Why not use it? But back then, like, that was, like, an interesting thing. Because, like, legit, if you did anything online, all your phone lines were cut out.
That was the hardest thing about having dial-up. Yeah. Oh, my God. Hey, I want to use the internet. Can no one call for, like, the next half hour or go pick up the phone for the next half hour? God forbid that somebody forgot you were on the internet and they answered the ringing phone because you immediately lost connection.
Yeah.
God, we sound like we're so old.
That's okay. So, of course...
She does that with 911.
She does the 911 call on the phone, or on the computer, and then it said, we're sending emergency services to you, or something. And then,
he done disappeared.
She turns around, and Ghostface is no longer there.
Disappeared.
Then, in, like, what seems like a couple of seconds, we have Billy, completely out of breath, sweating his ass off, again, flying into her open window. And she's like, oh, help me.
And she hugs him. She's relieved.
She's relieved to see him.
Her boyfriend came, and now the killer's gone. She feels relief. Until the cell phone drops out of his pocket.
The phone drops out of his pocket, and then she looks down, and she's like, why do you have a cell phone? And she immediately runs away.
Immediately thinks it's him.
Yep.
When she goes and she runs down her stairs and she throws open her front door, is it then that we are introduced to Dewey? No. Dewey got
introduced to Dewey at the principal's office.
Yeah, when she was being questioned. But Dewey is Tatum's brother, the older brother. He became a cop. He's a deputy, I believe, right? Yeah.
Deputy Dewey.
Oh my God.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jesus. And he's holding Ghostface's mask, and he goes, I just found this outside, and then we are led very quickly to another scene of Billy getting arrested, Sydney being taken care of by EMTs. Tatum rolls up in her little car to talk to Sydney and make sure she's okay. Then we are taken to the police station where Sydney is giving her statement and Billy is being questioned with his dad on everything. Billy's like, it wasn't me. You can check my phone. I didn't make those phone calls. And they were like, don't worry, we'll check it. We're going to check with the phone company what you had or what phone calls were made with that phone number. And this entire time, he's just like, Sydney, it wasn't me. You know it wasn't me. And she just can't believe that it's not him. I'm trying to think real quick. I'm sorry. Outside the police station, after all that's over, we are then introduced. Well, I guess we're not then introduced to Gale Weathers, but it's the only real time that we actually see her interact with the main cast for one of the very first times. And Gale Weathers is played by Courtney Cox, and she's a writer as well as a
journalist.
A journalist, a newswoman. And she's also the one that wrote an article or a book, I don't remember which one was said in the movie, about...
Yeah, it was a book. A book
about her mom's murder and how she believes Sydney said the wrong person was the murderer, a man named Cotton.
Cotton Weary.
Yeah, Gale is not convinced that Cotton did it. She thinks Sydney was wrong. She thinks that Sydney saw someone leaving her mom's body in a bloody coat, but she's not convinced that it's Cotton. And I don't know what Gale said. I don't really fully remember, but she said something, and it made Sydney completely deck her.
Yeah, so, because she asked about the book, and then she said, "Oh, I'll send you a copy." And then, bam! Punched in the face.
Punched her so hard. I mean, clearly it's not real.
Bam! Sydney, super bitch.
For real, though. She had a huge bruise on the side of her face after that, and Sydney actually had to ice her hand. That was probably the funniest part in the whole movie for me. I thought it was fantastic. So Sydney leaves with Dewey and Tatum. Dewey and Tatum go back to their house with their mother, and whom they live with, and Sydney gets an unfortunate phone call while at Tatum's house. And it is Ghostface again.
Of course, yes.
And so now she's like, oh my god, well, if Billy's in jail and I'm getting another call,
it can't be Billy.
It can't be Billy. And that's key to remember.
Yeah.
Because it was at that moment specifically that she was like...
She's like spiraling with everything that she's thinking of. She's like, oh my god, okay, did I finger the wrong person again? Which I think is a hilarious fucking word. I fingered the wrong guy. Wait, hold on, what?
Well, that's... Yes.
But yeah, she's of course like internally... Like,
that's the moment she started to doubt, well, did I actually get the wrong guy?
Yeah, did I choose the wrong guy?
But she's adamant.
Was it really Billy?
Yeah,
who can it be?
She's adamant that it was Cotton. It has to be Cotton. Mm-hmm. Because her mom would never cheat on her dad like that, like everyone says she was. Basically, Sydney gave a testimony of her mother was SA'd and murdered. And she refused to believe...
She believes that he was sexually assaulted.
Or she was, not he.
Yeah. She believes that she was sexually assaulted. Yeah. But in reality, it was probably just her mom just sleeping around like she was known to do.
Yeah, because after she gets that phone call and everything like that, they take us back to school. And that is when... She runs into Billy. She goes back to school. There's kids all around making jokes about the murders.
Yeah, people dressed up as Ghostface running through the halls. With fake knives,
with the masks. They're making fun of Sydney because, everyone it's a small town. Everyone knows that she says that she was attacked, that somebody chased her, and da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
So they're all kind of like making fun of the entire situation.
Yeah.
And then some guy runs down the hall in a full Ghostface costume, complete with fake knife, and scares the hell out of her. So she has a mini panic attack and she runs into the bathroom, where she overhears two girls talking about her mom. And it's mostly a cheerleader that is saying all of the bad things. She's saying that her mom's basically sleeping around, that everyone knows that her mom was a, quote, whore and things like that.
And then we have where she then makes the assumption that it's Sydney as the murderer because she just snapped with the 1 year of her mom being killed, so on and so forth. And then We have Sydney that's hiding in the stall. She's listening to all of this. And then the girls leave. And then Sydney comes out, looks at herself in the mirror, and she like does more of that reflection type deal. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, Ghostface pops out of the stall.
Yeah, so I really thought that maybe he had gone in after the two girls had left, but you're not wrong. We would have
seen it, yeah, or heard it or something.
So he was just like in the stall apparently, just waiting for her to
be there, and an off chance that she's there.
That's just that is one of the things about horror movies in general that bother me. The killer just is there.
Yeah, now like the only thing I could think of is because we have two killers, right? We have Billy, who is...
In our heads, we only have one right now.
Correct. In our heads, there's only one. But in reality, there's two. So my guess is Billy saw her in the hallway, but Stu was already waiting in the bathroom in hopes that he might be able to kill...
Because she did see Billy right before she went into the bathroom.
Yeah.
Because she went into the bathroom already upset because of the conversation she had with Billy.
Yeah.
So Billy got let... go. They found that the phone calls were not coming from his cell phone number and everything like that. So they let him go. They had nothing to hold him up.
Yeah. So I think...
So, well, hold on. So they bump into each other in the hallway. She says she's sorry. And rightfully so, he looks angry at her. And to be honest, I kind of don't blame him in that moment. I also would have been angry. And then... she was like, she said something about the anniversary of her mom's death coming up, and he goes, "What, you mean you're not over that already? When my mom left, it only took me a little while to get over it." And she goes, "Your mom left you. My mom is in a coffin somewhere. Like
my mom left me permanently."
Yeah, like literally. So I don't. That line.
My mom left the world.
That line bothers me so much, just because like. In general, I have had people in real life say something similar to that effect, either to me or about something, or about another friend of mine or something like that. I don't understand that mentality, and I never will. But so, rightfully so, she's upset. That's when she runs into the bathroom and hears even worse things about her mother.
Yeah. Now, again, like I was suggesting, I think that it was Stu waiting in there getting ready to kill Tatum, and an off chance that Tatum happens to go to the bathroom, because Billy is obviously the one who killed Casey. Billy is obviously the one that killed Steve. Billy is obviously the one who tried to kill Sydney right away at her house. Whereas on the phone was Stu.
See, I don't agree. I think Stu was the one to kill Casey and Steve because Casey left Stu for Steve.
Okay.
If I'm a psychopath, I'm going to go after the person who made me mad.
So I think maybe both of them worked together with the first kill.
Oh, absolutely they did.
So maybe it was then Casey who was killed by Stu, and Billy was the one who killed Steve, because there were definitely two ghost faces in the same area.
Yeah, for that
him
murder.
To be able to show up in the house right away.
Yeah, for that murder, both of them definitely played a part. I do think that Stu played the main role in it because he wanted to make Casey scared. He wanted revenge on Casey. He wanted to end Casey. Steve was just there.
Yeah,
sadly.
Especially because he had to throw Casey onto a branch to hang her by her intestines, or a rope, whatever the hell it was.
It was a rope, yeah.
And last time I checked, that's kind of hard to do by yourself.
Yeah.
You definitely need two people, especially in like the very short time frame that it happened.
We hung up the nets for our squishmallows, and we needed each other's help. That's just hanging up nets. Where were we?
So
the bathroom.
After the bathroom scene, Sydney gets attacked in the bathroom. She runs out, and of course, just like all other Hollywood movies, no one thinks to just wait there for the killer to leave the fucking bathroom. Because, like, there's no one else in the bathroom.
No, just her and him.
So, yeah, there's no one else in the bathroom. He doesn't leave the bathroom. She runs out of the bathroom and just runs down the hallway. And then we go to a scene in the principal's office.
This is my favorite scene.
Which is the two that were wearing the Scream
masks.
Ghost face things. Yep. And then they're being punished by the principal. He said that they're expelled. Or...
Yeah. He said, you're expelled. And one kid is like, that's unfair. And he's like, you know what? That you're right. That is unfair.
We should hang you up and gut you outside so people can see that you don't actually have hearts.
The principal becomes completely unhinged. Like, he is screaming. He has these old-fashioned metal knives that he just keeps snipping at them in their face. Yeah, I'm sorry, scissors. He just keeps snipping at them in their face. He cuts their shirts, and he's losing his shit.
Yeah. Happens.
He was the best.
I mean, like, I don't say he was wrong, because, like, honestly, you're the principal of a school. All the students should be following and, like, whatever you preach, I guess, at the school. So that means...
Oh, you mean the values?
Yeah, the values and stuff. So, obviously, if his students are, like, so demoralizing... like...
I mean, but he's not wrong. So I know that this is the entire point of the movie, is to, like, show how heartless some teenagers can be, and I get that. I would ask my parents to transfer after all that, because maybe it's because I've been through what I've been through, but I'm not one to think that a murdered teenager is funny.
No, definitely not. And, like, you have that in, like, almost all shows and movies that have to do with teenagers. Like, Fear Street, for instance. When the killings happen in fucking, not Sunnydale, but, Shadyside. All the students run through with, like, dead body dummies up and down the hallway, and they're like, it's happening again! Woohoo! Like,
I'll never understand it. Never understand. But, you know, that's just one of the things about scary movies that I have to deal with that. Whether I like it or not, that's just gonna be one of the tropes.
Yeah, like, we lost a student at one of my, like, at a school that I went to, and everyone, like, legit was, like, sad about it.
Yeah!
We were like, oh shit.
Every time my school went through something, everyone was just, like, stoic.
Yeah.
Now that I'm saying a lot of that out loud, I'm like, wow, my high school was severely traumatized.
Yeah, no, like, it also depends on, obviously, what school you go to, because, like, if you go to a school where, like, things like that happen a lot, then, of course, the students are desensitized. Words.
All of them were bad.
So, yeah, the principal then, excuse me. I guess after that next attack, the principal then declares that school is going to be let out early and canceled, and then there's going to be an even earlier curfew in the city or the town. To which, once the students leave, Stu is like, a fucking party at my house.
Yeah. He's like, oh great, no school for a while, let's have a fucking party at
There's
my
a killer
place.
on the loose attacking teenagers. Let's have teenagers down at a party, which makes sense because he is one of the killers. Let's just get all the teenagers together and let's kill them all in one spot. Makes sense.
It's a good cover story, though.
Yeah, it is a great cover story. Oh, we had a party and then all of a sudden
the killer
showed up
and killed some people.
How did he know we were here? I don't know. So then we hear about the party, and then the next scene cuts to them all at a movie store or rental store.
Yeah, they're at the movie store.
Yeah, they're at the movie rental place, and that's when Randy gives his 2 cents on everything that's happening, as well as we listen to the rules of surviving horror movies. Randy has seen a lot of horror movies.
He's the expert,
and right away he manages to figure out who the killer is.
Dun, dun, dun.
There was a whole thing with Sydney's dad not being reachable. That the phone calls were made by Sydney's dad to throw the audience off as well as everyone else.
That's
and
right.
Randy is here saying that the dad is a red herring and the real killer is Billy. And he's saying all of this to Stu. And then he looks at Stu and says, "Tell me that he's not a killer." He explains all of his reasonings, and then he turns around and Billy's right there.
He literally bumps into Billy.
And then he goes, "How the fuck do we know it's not you?" And then, of course, Randy's like, "You're right. I would be a main suspect in all of this. Everyone's a fucking main suspect." And he tries to, like, I guess weasel his way out, or, like, talk his way out of, like, his in troubleness or whatever.
He's trying to backtrack.
Yeah, he's just trying to backtrack to make it sound like he's not, like, pointing fingers, because, of course, he doesn't want to get fucking murdered by Billy.
No, I'm sorry. My ass would do anything possible to make sure I didn't make anyone mad.
Yeah, exactly.
Until that killer was caught.
So, he of course, says, doesn't say sorry, but goes to backtrack, and then once Billy walks away, he looks at Stu and says, "Tell me that isn't a fucking murderer." And then we cut to the party at Stu's house. I think.
Do we?
I think so.
I don't remember.
No, Dewey's long gone.
No, oh my Jesus.
I think it is Gale that's, like, hitting on Dewey in a scene so that Dewey invites her to the party with him.
Yes. I did forget that during the questioning that Sydney was going through at the police station after the attack, they were trying to get a hold of her dad at the hotel that they said that he was supposed to be in, but the hotel kept saying, "Oh, he hasn't checked in, he's not there." Da, da, da. And Cindy is like, "No, he has to be there. He left yesterday for this, or this morning for it. He should be there already."
Yeah.
And that's when the police start to realize, oh, her dad's, like, missing, like, gone, and these attacks are getting, like, more and more escalated.
No one's seen the dad.
Yeah.
And is able to actually pinpoint his location, to which he becomes a high suspect.
Yeah, he becomes a suspect because he cannot be found.
Mm-hmm. So then, of course, at the police station afterwards, I think it's, like, right in between Billy being released and Dewey talking to Gale, because I believe that there is a quick snippet there where the cops are talking and they mention that the calls came from...
Yeah, the calls actually came from her dad's phone.
Yeah.
So now they're extra, like, we gotta find the dad. So then, after the movie store with Randy, Stewie, and Billy, we are cut to a very small scene, I think. I'm not 100% sure. This is about when, in the movie, the timeline got kind of skewed for me, because I believe that these things were happening simultaneously. So we see Gale get to the party. She
with Dewey, because she hits on Dewey to get invited.
Yep.
To figure out where all the kids are, I guess, but she had to have had a suspicion that there was going to be a party.
You see,
right?
This is why I don't think Dewey invited her to the party, because he's a cop. Why is he going to a teenage party? And
to be there because his sister was going.
And Gale gets there before Dewey does, and she's the one that plants the video camera.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I think you're wrong. No offense, but I think you're wrong.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff that happens, but I think it's supposed to be like, Dewey tells her where the party is, and then Gale shows up right before Dewey does.
Yes,
to
because
plant
Dewey's
the stuff.
not there when she plants the video camera. So she plants a video camera so in a way that she can see most of the party, and just, to see what's going to happen, maybe get further on in her story that she's trying to create. You are not on camera. Bloop. And the teenagers are really excited that a celebrity's there, so she starts, mingling with them and everything like that.
She's talking to everyone. There's a movie playing or something.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's a movie. And then, as everyone's talking to Gale, having a party, watching a movie, that's when Tatum... Yeah, that's when Tatum decides to leave and get a beer. Yeah. Or more beers for the party. More beers. Something.
Yeah, she gets more beers from the garage.
Yeah, she goes into the garage, grabs some drinks, turns around, and I guess Ghostface is in the door. Yeah. And then she tries to escape. She tries to go through the dog door on the garage because the garage wouldn't open. And all of a sudden, the garage door magically opens with her in the dog door. So it lifts her up, and then she
gets crushed by the garage door in a very weird way. Gale and Dewey, by this point, have left the party. They are going to go take a walk because Dewey got a phone call about an abandoned car. So he's like, hey, you want to come check this out with me? Gale, looking for a huge story, says yes. They go and they walk.
Oh, no. There's, after the killing, that's when... I think that's when Stu goes. But I do know that Gale goes back to the van quick. Mm-hmm. That's when they,
because she wants to see the angle of the camera to see if she has to go back into the party and redo it. Yeah. And that's where we find out that there's a 30-second delay, which is key. It turns out, because they
didn't help them out at all.
No, they kept repeating in like the span of 3 minutes of that scene that there was a 30-second delay. I feel like, but they probably didn't. But that's how I feel
they just mentioned it once. But it was like, oh, damn, there's a delay. Well, how long of a delay? And then it was like...
30 seconds.
Well, how long did it take you to walk from there to here? And she was like, I don't know, about 30 seconds. And he was like, okay, well then...
About 30 seconds.
About 30 seconds.
Yep.
And then she was like, well, it doesn't matter because it's not live TV. It's just recording.
A recording, yeah.
So then they were like, oh, okay, cool. To which then Dewey invites her on a walk because he gets the call.
About the abandoned car. Well... Fuck. Damn it, Dewey. You didn't have to leave because that's when the killing starts.
Well, the killing started.
More killings.
More killings happen.
So, after that...
After Tatum's death, we then get to a scene with Stu kicking people out. Which seems like it either happened really quick and, like... Tatum's been dead for a while, and the movie's over, the party's like going away, Stu's kicking people out, and then as he's kicking people out, that's when we have Sydney that's about to leave, and then sees Billy there. Billy goes in, and Stu's like, come on guys, go upstairs and talk it out.
And Randy's like, no, and Stu's like, shut up, let them go upstairs and talk.
Exactly.
And poor Randy is like, fucking fine. So he goes to
Randy's
watch
like,
the movie.
Damn, I wanted to get with her.
Yeah, he wants to date Sydney so bad. So he just leaves and he goes into the next room with some other party goers that chose to stay. Because Stu didn't kick everyone out.
Yeah, he just like kicked out
some. Because there were like 5 or 6 kids.
A big majority of the people.
There was like 5 or 6 kids that stayed and watched the movie in the living room with Randy, and that's where Randy pauses the movie and redoes his spiel about the.
This is why you have to be a virgin in a movie.
Yeah, he said
you're gonna die if you have sex.
He was like, basically anything sinful like drinking or drugs, because they were getting high and they were drinking. And then he was like, and sex, if you are a virgin and then you chose to have sex in a horror movie, you die.
And then never say you'll be right back.
Oh, yeah.
And then Stu's like, I'll be right back.
Ooh. And then leaves. And Randy's like, fuck you guys. Well, we all know why Billy and Sydney decided to go upstairs.
Yeah.
It was not to talk.
No, it was to fuck.
Yes.
Yeah. It rhymes with talk, kind of. So after they are done doing the dance of the double dragon back or whatever the fuck they call it,
Jesus.
The beast with 2 backs.
You need to work on it.
We then see... Oh, my bad. We then see Billy starting to get dressed, and then he looks over at Sydney. I think they, like, talk for a moment. Or
they start talking.
Sydney asks him...
No, Sydney asks, so who was your one phone call?
Who's your one call? Yeah, because she's getting dressed, and she's like, who was your one call? And he was like, what? She was like, at the police station. who was your call? He goes, oh, my dad. And she goes, no, that was,
the chief.
The chief.
The chief
I saw him call your dad.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, yeah, that's because I called, but,
he didn't answer.
He didn't answer me. So I was like, okay.
Which is funny that conversation happened, because immediately after that, when we see Sydney start to become a little bit suspicious again,
he's like, what do I have to do to make you believe that I'm not the killer?
And then the killer comes busting through the door and he starts stabbing Billy.
Yep.
In the back. So
stabbing Billy.
So of course, Sydney runs. I would have left you too. If you're being stabbed already, I'll call 911. I'm sorry.
You're all on your own. Bye.
Well,
I'll call 911.
What's the point of both of us being dead?
True. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you're the one getting stabbed, you'd want me to like fight the killer. But if I'm the one getting stabbed, you're the one that runs away.
I do not have confidence that
double standards.
I do not have confidence that I would be able to save you.
Standards.
You have confidence that you would be able to save me. I do not have confidence that I would be able to save you. I don't have confidence that I would be able to save me. So there's that for you too.
So yeah, we have Sydney running away yet again. She runs downstairs, out the door, whatever. I think like she doesn't run into anyone, right? She just runs out. Then she goes into, I believe it's in Dewey's squad car. And then she's in there trying to make a call to 911. That's when we then see the scene with the teenagers leaving, running Dewey and Gail off the road. Mm-hmm. They roll over, they're about to kiss or something, and then they see the car. Dewey then notices that it's Sydney's dad's car, runs back to his squad car, and then they're both on their way back. And while they're on their way back, we then get another shot of...
This is where it starts to get hazy.
Yeah, so I think it's like another shot of in the squad car where Sydney's like hiding from the killer because he was like chasing her. And then all of a sudden the trunk opens and we don't notice it, or we notice it open, Sydney doesn't notice it open, and then the killer just happens to be right there. She leaves the car, runs away again, and then the killer is just... I think she runs into the garage and then sees Tatum there and then goes to book it another way. And then that's when we get to seeing Dewey and Gail getting back to the house. Dewey says, call 911 because the door was open.
I don't know.
No, because... Okay. So Sydney runs out of the house. She goes to the van, and then that's when she opens the door, and not Billy, what the hell's the camera guy's name? Kenny. So Kenny's there watching the feed, and then she's like, oh my god, what's going on? And then he was like, I don't know, and then they notice on the TV that Ghostface is right behind Randy on the couch watching the TV.
Yes.
Yeah, because he gets a phone call saying that the principal's dead. The teenagers are like, let's go fucking see him before he gets ripped off the goalposts.
They get a phone call that the principal is dead and strung up at the goalpost in the football field.
Yeah.
And all these weird ass fucking these demented teenagers are like, let's go see again.
Yeah, they drive off. They almost run Dewey and Gail off the road.
Yes.
So Randy's left there to watch the movie by himself. He's watching a scene of the movie where he's like, oh, turn around. The killer's right behind you. He's right behind you. Turn around. And then he was like, hold on a second. Maybe I should turn around. He turns around. He looks, and what do you know?
There's a killer.
There's a killer there. So he runs away, or he like gets stabbed or something. They see it in the video, and Kenny's like, turn around, kid, he's right behind you. And then he goes to look behind him. He realizes that there's a 30-second delay, notices that the door's open, and he's like, oh shit. He double takes, goes back to the TV, turns around again. As he turns around again, his throat gets slit. And then there's Ghostface. Sydney then tries to run away from him through the van, goes out the back of the van, and then that's when she locks herself into the squad car. She's in the squad car, the door opens, the killer attacks her, then Dewey and Gale get back to the house. They split ways. Dewey tells Gale to call 911.
Sorry.
Gale goes back to the van to call 911.
Raptors doing
and
things.
Then Gale goes to the van to call 911. She gets in the driver's seat, and then she, I guess, has her window rolled down, and then
I don't know. She just crashes the fucking van though.
So she's like startled at first a little bit, and then the window's rolled down, and then that's when Randy's like, "Run, the killer's here," or something, and terrifies the shit out of Gale. Gale goes to start up the car and drives away, and then realizes there's blood all over the place. Fucking
Freaks
drives
her out more.
Yeah, she speeds off, hits the brakes, and then Kenny just falls off the fucking roof. And she screams even more. She's like, "Sorry, Kenny," and like fucking like goes to like drive him off the roof or something. And then that's when she gets into a car crash.
And we assume she's dead. She
looks dead. At this point, Sydney like did a lap around the house. That's when she saw whatchamacallit. Gale drives off the road because Sydney's on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So Sydney then runs towards the house, sees Dewey like in the doorway, and then she's like, "Dewey!" And then Dewey like goes to like help her, but happens to have a knife in his back. That's when the killer like pulls out the knife.
Yes. She's like, because the killer stabbed Dewey.
Yeah.
She called for Dewey. He turned around, and the killer takes the knife out of Dewey's back and is like,
yeah. The killer has to go somewhere though, because like then we see Randy that comes out, and then he runs into Sydney. Sydney then is like, "Are you okay?" She doesn't believe Randy anything that he says, and then that's when we see Stu run up.
Yeah.
And then
Sydney at this point stole Dewey's gun, by the way.
Yeah.
By the way, it's key point.
Yeah, so I think
because she's pointing the gun at Randy and Stu, and they're both claiming that the other person is the killer, and they're like, "No, he's the one," and she's. It was at this moment because both of them are telling her to shoot the other.
Yeah.
It was at this moment that whole thing that's been going on throughout the whole movie of her doubting herself and her second guessing, "Oh my gosh, do I actually know what's going on? Do I really? What if I, point to the wrong guy? What if I end up shooting the wrong guy?"
Yeah.
Basically all coming back to Cotton and her mom. And so she decides to not make a choice, and she locks them outside.
Yeah, and she's like, pretty much deal with it yourself. Bye. She goes inside, locks the door. She has the gun in her hand, and then next thing we see is Billy just limping out of the room, comes up to the stairs.
He falls down the stairs.
Rolls down the stairs, gets up. Sydney's happy to see him. He goes to grab the gun from Sydney, and then he unlocks the door and lets in someone. Randy comes in, and then Randy's like, "Stu out there, man, he's crazy. He's gone fucking crazy, man." And then that's when Billy's like, "Well, all of us are crazy," and then shoots Randy.
Poor Randy.
And then Sydney is like, "What the fuck just happened?" And then Billy was like, "Yeah.
Cornstarch,
huh?
Like in Carrie."
Yeah. And then he lets in Stu, and then both of them start revealing their big plan.
Yep. Turns out they had planned all this. They had planned on Casey and Steve dying. They had planned the party so that they could kill more people. Mm-hmm. They even drag Cindy's dad out of a closet. He's bound and gagged. They had it all planned out. They were going to frame him for all of it because, 1 year since your wife died, you lost your mind and you murdered a bunch of kids, and then you murdered your daughter, and then you shot yourself in the head, and you cloned a cell phone. Yeah, they did all. They were they would have had like a real good like.
Yeah, that's a pretty good plan.
Yeah, honestly, but they fucked up.
If no one lived, yeah,
they fucked up because not only did they let people live, but they got carried away. They got overzealous.
Yeah,
they got
They started stabbing each other.
Yeah.
Some of the cuts went deeper. Then they like actually like started either getting upset with each other, or they were both getting super addicted to that adrenaline of like stabbing someone, and then it just kind of unravels all their plans from there. Where they're like, this is happening. Oh shit. Okay, well we gotta get the dad. They bring the dad in. They have the gun. And then all of a sudden they turn and look, and the gun's not there anymore.
Stu had put down the gun to help with something else.
And then Stu put down the gun to get the dad in. Yeah.
And then he turns around to get the gun again so they can carry on with their plan, but the gun's gone. And Stu is losing a lot of blood, so he's like, Billy? The gun's not fucking here. So then the gun's
not fucking here, man!
So then they start panicking, and they're trying to find this gun everywhere.
And then this is when we have Gail come in with the gun.
Mm-hmm. Terrible shot, because she's shaking everywhere.
She's shaking all over the place, but she's about to take a shot at Billy, and then we find out that the safety is off. She gets knocked the fuck out.
The safety is on.
She gets knocked the fuck out. She lands on Dewey, and then that's when Billy has the gun, and he goes, well, it's a lot... it works with the safety off. Goes to take a shot at Gale, to which Stu goes, uh-oh. And then he's like, well, what the fuck is wrong now? And he's like, Sid's gone. And so then he's like, oh, god damn it. So he's like, where the fuck are you, bitch?
Did he end up shooting Gale?
No.
No, but she falls down and she's unconscious against
Yeah, because he gets knocked out.
Oh,
or she gets knocked out, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
And then we have Stu and Billy. They're freaking out. Billy's like, fucking find her. And Stu's like, I can't, man. I think you hurt me too much. I'm dying here.
He's losing a lot of blood.
And we then have it where Sydney then calls the house phone. Billy answers. And then she's using Ghostface's voice changer. Yep. She's like, I called the fucking cops, you asshole. They're on their way here. You're fucked. And then Billy's like, oh, you fucking bitch, I'm gonna find you. And then Stu gets the phone, and he's on the phone. He's like, did you really call the cops, man?
You bet your ass I did.
My mom and dad are gonna be so upset with me.
He just starts crying. But see, again, and I said it when we watched it, that's how you know you're still a child. If that's your go-to response to getting caught for murdering people, you're still a fucking child.
Yep. So, this all goes on, and then Billy, of course, is, like, looking all over, opens up a closet, and then out comes Sydney with an umbrella, stabs Billy, like, twice or three times in the chest.
It was twice in the
and
chest
then,
with the pointy end.
Billy falls over on the ground, and then I think we have it where Randy is still alive. I think he knocked out Billy?
I don't know, but we forgot to state this earlier. The entire reason why they're after Sydney in the first place is because Cindy's mother, turns out she was sleeping with Billy's dad and ruined, quote unquote,
the marriage
of Billy's parents.
Yeah, it's all Sydney's mother's fault.
So his dad left, they divorced, his mom left, everything like that. Billy was like, well, what the hell is this? So he planned for Stu and him to kill her mom, her mom, and kill her, and framed Cotton for it. And that's why Sydney thought that Cotton did it, was because they framed him for it.
Now, I don't know why they tried to frame Cotton, because they don't actually say that.
Probably because he was the last person that she was with, and it was just convenient.
Yeah.
It was honestly just convenient.
Yeah. And, I think at that point, that's when, so they killed him, or they killed the mom, and then a year later, they were like, you know what?
Let's do it again,
man. Because, the moment, with serial killers, the moment you get that one kill in, Then you have your cooldown period.
Oh,
I remember.
You do learn when I talk.
So they had that cooldown period, and then they were like, well, let's fucking kill again. Or the fact that Billy just kept feeling that sense of anger with...
I'm so proud of you right now. You have no idea.
Or Billy was, like, feeling that sense of anger every single time he was with Sydney.
Yep.
Especially with Sydney, like, preserving herself. Because, like, that was another, like, motive that Randy talks about. Is, like, well, you know, like, could Sydney be withholding sex? That gives the killer a motive, so on and so forth. But we know that the motive is so much more than just this.
But he wanted to get that from Sydney before he killed her because he wanted, like, the ultimate fuck you to her, basically. Yeah. And she didn't even do anything. She was just the daughter.
Yeah.
Damn.
So, of course, Billy gets knocked out. Stu is alive, and he's like, yeah, it's because I'm a virgin. And then, we find out that Gail is still alive.
No, Randy's still... Well, Stu is still alive,
well,
but Randy's still alive because he's a virgin.
Stu ends up dying.
Yes, of severe blood loss.
Billy is on the ground. They have the gun, and then all of a sudden... Randy's looking down, and he's like, this is about the time that the killer makes a very last scare. And then after he says that, Billy goes, ah! And then he gets shot in the head, and that's the end of the terrors. We then close the movie to Gail starting her news report on what just happened as an eyewitness testimony.
She looks completely shocked. She's not even sure of what she's doing or where she's at. That poor woman.
But she's willing. She's ready to report
ready to do it.
Yep. So that was the movie. It will start to make a movie series afterwards, where Sydney and Gail and Dewey are
and Randy for the second one.
Well, yeah, and Randy for the second one, but
don't ruin it.
Dewey, Gail, and Sydney for all the 5 movies that they do end up making. And then the most recent movie that did come out, the Scream remake, definitely great.
Or requel, apparently.
Yeah, requel,
as they
because it's not a reboot, it's not a remake, it is to pass the torch, if you will, to whatever other killers or whatever other storylines they want to use.
They explain it in that one.
Yeah.
And we're not going to go into much detail about it because it's brand new. We don't want to ruin anything for anyone. But that's basically what the premise is. It's a requel.
Yeah, no spoilers for that one.
I did like that one.
That one was a really good one.
I
did like it, as well as the show.
There are other requels, as they say.
Yeah.
That I have seen that I don't.
They're not good.
I don't care too much for, but I did like that one.
Yes, the Scream requel is pretty good. The Scream series on TV is amazing.
I love that show.
So I just think that they kind of ran out of ideas, and there's only so many times that you could reuse the same exact plot, almost like the same structure.
Everything has an ending for a reason.
Exactly. So we thought that the last one was going to be the 4th movie, and then they brought us back to like the original type deal.
Yep.
Where they want to remake the movie, but they want to make a requel because like the fans are upset. And then that's when you notice like, hey, this might be the start of a new whole entire Scream series,
like franchise,
and a continuation with new people, new main characters, so on and so forth. So it's great. So with the movie being over and us coming to the end of the podcast, the only question that we have for ourselves is it scary? What do you say?
I'm trying to remember how I felt when I first, like the very first time I saw it compared to now, because now, no. The answer is no.
Obviously, yeah. Once you see it so many times, or like when you like have been well seasoned in watching horror movies,
they're not.
No horror movie is actually scary for you anymore.
The very first time I saw it, it did give me that rush of adrenaline. It did give me that sense of suspense, and whatnot like that. I personally would not say that it's scary, but I do think that it's a very great intro movie. So if you're like 12 to 14 years old,
and you want to
having a party or a sleepover or something, or like you have friends over and you're just hanging out and you want to like get introduced to scary movies, or you're just like, hey, you want to watch this?
If you want to have a good classic scary thriller slasher movie,
I think this would be good.
100%. Yeah.
I think that would be good.
And I think that's what made it be one of my like starter movies to actually get me into it, was because of the way that it's like the plot is. My very first time seeing it, I was on edge. I was like, who the fuck is the killer? Because like they're throwing all of these hints at you, and then when you see it the second time, you're like, oh my god, it's so obvious now. But it does have you guessing during it.
When Dewey asked Gail to go for a walk, the very first time I saw it, I legit thought he's the killer. He's doing it. He's gonna kill her. I don't know why.
It's the sheriff. He's a dirty sheriff. Dirty Deputy Dewey.
I don't know why I thought that, but I definitely did.
Dirty Deputy Dewey.
There were definitely times where I was like, Billy's the killer, and then there were times, obviously, when I was. I'm going based off of my very first time seeing it. Then there were times where I was like, oh no, he's not the killer, but then.
Yeah.
The ending really did throw me for a loop when I...
Finding out that there were two killers was...
Yeah.
Fucking, like...
I think Wes Craven...
M. Night Shyamalan.
That's not who directed it. Wes... I butchered the last name because I can never hear the first part of the name. I know it's Wes Craven or Wes Craven or Wes Craven.
I think it's Wes Craven.
I think it is Wes Craven. I think a lot of people have...
Yeah, his name is C. Raven. Craven.
I've heard people pronounce it so many different...
Craven?
Yeah, I've heard people pronounce it so many different ways that I'm not 100% sure of like what's what, but I think it's Craven. He is one of my was R.I.P. one of my favorite thriller directors.
So I'm going to give my thought on the movie as well.
Is it scary?
Is it scary? As your very first movie, it did scare me a little bit. There are definitely jump scares in it. There are definitely some times that you're like, oh shit. When you think about this actually happening, yeah, it's terrifying because like it could easily happen. Like this is a great setup to actually have a real fucking murderer. You know? Like this could happen in real life. If it weren't for the movies, or if it weren't for these movies, people would not right away guess that there are two killers, you know? So this movie shows that it could be done, and it gets you thinking like, man, if someone was able to think about this as a plot, and they happened to do it themselves, they would get away with it so easily.
Well, that's...
if that end part didn't mess them up.
There's this whole thing that, well, they wouldn't have messed up if they hadn't stabbed each other.
Yeah.
Because the moment they started stabbing each other, that killer instinct comes in, and it's like, oh, I like killing. But that's neither here nor there right now.
Correct.
Fact is weirder than fiction sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We want to believe as a species that no one can really think of things like that and it can't be a reality. But the truth is that unfortunately it can be.
Yeah.
You know? I also think that I thought it was funny. I thought that this movie was funny. So, I think the comedic relief was fantastic. I think that it was great. It had great key points to break the tension. It
has a really good flow to it.
Yeah.
Honestly, because, like, you have your suspense, you have your slashing parts, and then you have that comedic relief, and then you have, like, perfect timing for a lot of things.
Yes.
And even when they fucking mention that there's going to be a jump scare, you get fucking scared!
You still
get that scare, yeah, so it's like...
You still jump.
It's so good. I do like it, and because it was a Wes Craven movie, this is one of the only series that actually poke fun and have like that mirror up to other horror movies that are like, hey, yeah, it's it's obvious who the killer is, and they continue on with these rules in future movies, and
you can see these rules in every single horror
you can see them in
movie.
everything, and it feels like whenever there's a new spin on the genre, there's another Scream movie to be like, oh yeah, well this is the rule of that, so on and so forth, like the recoil rule in Scream rebooted, the killer rules if you're doing a live stream killing in the third movie, the second movie the spin on, or in the fourth movie, the second movie the spin on who the actual killer was, how history doesn't always have to repeat itself, and how there can be copycats, so on and so forth. So like the fact that it was very
crimes are afoot outside our house.
Yeah. It's a killer. Scream 6.
Hopefully for the next episode we'll be in our office and we won't have as many issues as we did with this one, but we'll see.
But yeah, I on a scale of like 1 to 10 on like great movies to start yourself off with, if you are looking to get into horror movies, I definitely rate it on top for like maybe like 8, 9, 10.
I would give it an 8.
Yeah.
1 through 10, I would give it an 8.
I'd probably give it about a 9 because it definitely introduces you. It gives you lots of cooldown periods in the movie. It gives you like that little taste of this is what suspense is like. This is what a slasher is like, so on and so forth. And be prepared. If it was scary, the very first time I watched it, I was a little scared. It wasn't terrifying to where I was like, I'm never gonna watch this movie again. So it was great. It was definitely that like.
God, me with Pet Sematary.
it was definitely that gateway movie for me to get me into the horror movie genre.
You know what? Maybe that's why I don't find most modern horror movies scary, because I was forced to watch the scariest ones at very young ages. Yeah. Not by my parents, might I add, but I was forced to watch very scary ones at such young age that by the time I got to the age where my brain could finally truly tell itself, oh, that's fake, this isn't real, I had already dealt with that fear. I've already dealt with that adrenaline and that anxiety and everything like that. Which is sad because sometimes I want to be scared sometimes. I can't even go to a haunted house anymore because they're not scary to me.
The Hills Has Eyes, that was
good though.
It was good, but I wasn't scared.
So I think being a scare actor also ruined it for me, because I know all the tips and tricks. I know what's supposed to be happening. I know what the goal is.
When you're definitely in that environment for a really long time, you definitely like become desensitized.
Why is
not demoralized?
Desensitized. Jesus.
You're definitely desensitized, and like when you watch more and more horror movies, there are less and less things that actually like are scary in horror movies. There are certain horror movies that do like manage to hit the head on the nail a little bit here and there. For me,
you mean the nail on the head?
That nail on the head. Head on the nail.
And I would probably give it a 3.5 if we're doing stars.
What?
Yeah. Because here's the thing. It's not overdone. It's not underrated. Yeah. Most people like this movie. At least in the conversations I've had, most people have liked this movie.
A lot of people meme the movie too.
It was and kind of still is a relatable movie.
Yeah.
It does give you the adrenaline rush. I don't particularly think it's scary, which automatically knocks it off of a star.
Mm-hmm.
I still give it an 8 rating on intro movie. It has an 8 out of 10 for intro, but it has a 3.5 if stars. God, I can't talk. Like for overall.
Yeah. I still think overall it's like a 4 out of 5, if anything. Because like I do think that it's very well put together. It's it definitely has a lot of those like.
I don't know what rating scale we're gonna stick to, but
no clue.
We'll figure it out as we go on.
Yeah, no, I liked it.
10 out of 10 would watch again.
Yeah, oh yeah. I would 100% watch it again. It is one of my favorite movies.
I actually did start watching the second one right after we were done with the first one, and I didn't finish it because I got tired. But we did finish it the other day.
We did, yeah.
So.
All right. So yeah, that was good.
I like it.
I'm ready for another episode. If our viewers want to like and subscribe, please do. Please go into the comments and comment on anything you would like us to watch, review, give our thoughts about, because we're going to be doing synopsises about a lot of things. Movies, TV shows, books, video games, anything that's really horror-esque related.
Random videos.
Yeah, there are some TikToks that are pretty scary. There's a lot of YouTube videos that are scary.
When we get there are a couple of short film TikTokers that I would like to talk about. I think they're fantastic.
There are so many YouTube videos that I've dove into. Not divin, dove. That I dove into that are just creepy as fuck.
But they're good. Okay,
they're so good. Yeah.
We'll
discuss all of this later.
We will have that will be a topic for a different day next week.
We'll have a YouTube day.
Yes.
Yes.
Next week we will cover a book that I have been in love with for years at this point, and I don't recommend a lot of books, to be honest. If I recommend a book, it's gonna be good. You actually liked this book.
Yes I did. I gotta fix my hair.
What are we doing?
I'm taking off my headset. It's a little warm.
What?
Yeah, my ears are warm.
Oh, I don't know why I thought you meant the headset was
No. Yeah, the book, it is called A Dead House. So before anyone comments on our next thing, that's what we're doing next, is the book A Dead House by...
Or The Dead House. One of the two.
The Dead House?
Her first name is Dawn. I cannot for the life of me pronounce her last name. I think it's Cavon or something like that.
Let's see. Dawn Kurtagech.
Well, I was way off. But either way, it's a good book, and we'll talk about that next week. But we can't give too much away on it.
Kurtagech. So yeah, The Dead House by Dawn Kurtagech will be what we discuss next week. Mm-hmm. Again, please like, follow, subscribe, whatever, and we'll make more videos to come, as well as we will be on Audible eventually. Or no, not Audible. Not Audible. Spotify.
We are not authors.
Anything that will be able to host podcasts. So we're going to be looking into that, and then...
hopefully you can find us.
Yeah, and of course, because this is our very first episode, our setup is kind of wonky right now. We're going to be working on it as time to come, as this is my gaming computer setup for streaming and stuff. So we just kind of have to make do with what we have for now, and then we'll work to get some better quality.
You sound like Stewie from Family Guy.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And we're done. Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys. Have a good October.